Yes, yes, absolutely. Thanks, Eugene, for that overview. And welcome everyone to today's webcast. So today we have so one of the challenges that businesses in worldwide, globally, but particularly UK, will be facing with the event of the corona virus and COVID-19 will be financial challenges. So in terms of how they're going to survive, which is one of the reasons why we have this series running every week. So today we wanted to have a look at alternate financing and funding options for businesses that will help them to tide over or get through this period and continue to thrive even after the crisis is over or the pandemic is over. So we have with us today an expert in grant funding in the person of Tim Holmes. So Tim Holmes is the founder and owner of Growth in Business, which is a company that does a number of different things, including finance, cost management, and grant funding, as well as helping businesses with marketing. So today he's going to be helping us to understand some of the grants out there for small businesses that can help us to continue to grow even in the face of the challenges that we are facing at the moment. One of those, I'm going to let Tim do a lot more, talk to us a lot more about what's available out there and what he does. So Tim, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Kaneo. Appreciate that, and yeah, thanks for having me on your meeting today. It's really good, so I do appreciate it. Just to really, I suppose, tell you a little bit about myself. I do this as a consultancy, just helping people, business owners, access grants, funding, and as Kaneo says, cost reduction. But also I have a manufacturing company as well. So I sort of see this from both sides, really. Only a small manufacturing company in Birmingham, but nevertheless, we employ 10 people, and we've had to go through the situation, furloughing people and going down to skeleton staff and putting new measures in place and all of it. So I can see it from two sides, really. One as a business owner of a business with overhead, and the other trying to access these funds on behalf of other business owners. So I thought today, if it's okay with you guys, I'd just sort of have a really quick run through grants and then really sort of maybe focusing on what's available currently for the current situation. So for those that, most of you probably know, but for those that don't, sort of grants can be local, regional, or national. Monies can come from the UK government, or it can come from the EU. And generally, business grants are non-refundable, so which makes them quite attractive source of funding for businesses. They largely depend on what region the business is as to what grants are available, and also what industry sector you're in. Under normal circumstances, I'd be saying things like B2C businesses, retail and stuff, actually aren't as well supported as B2B businesses. But that at the moment is changed somewhat, and there's support across the board. But generally, when a company will apply for a grant, there will be an end result that's required. The funder is handing over public money, and then in order that they're handing over this money, there's got to be an end result. There's got to be a benefit that the company that they're giving the money to is going to give back, basically. And when grants can be sought for various things. I mean, I've put 4 things down here. One's capital equipment, which is Obviously, it's machinery, office equipment, that sort of thing. Training. When you get a grant for training, it does tend to be for accredited training, and there are apprenticeships as well out there which are funded. A common one at the moment is lowering carbon footprint. So for financial help for businesses to lower carbon footprints, and innovation. So there's rewards out there for companies that innovate. And that, I think, really is one of the areas we're going to look at slightly in a couple of minutes. And really, I suppose the question is, what is innovation? And I define it as some sort of a new idea, a new product, a new process. Even that if it's an amendment to something that's existing, and you're going to improve it, is still an innovation.
Sorry, Tim. Sorry, Tim. Someone has some mic on. Okay, continue.
Okay. Some sort of a new idea, yeah, I can hear it. There is an echo. I can hear an echo, but yeah.
Is it gone?
So, yes, it's gone now.
Okay, someone had the mic on and something talking, so it was a bit
distracting. Okay, Eugene. Okay, no problem. Yeah, so companies that are going to innovate, they're going to push the boundaries forward. There is funding out there to help, because these are really, I suppose, the companies of the future. These are the guys that are going to push us forward. In most cases, when you apply for a grant, there's a matched funding element. So it may well be that the grant only covers 30, 40, 50% of the amount that the company requires. But at the moment, there are some more generous grants available, again, due to the current circumstances. And I suppose that leads into one that we've been looking at quite a lot recently under the innovation side of things, where there's 100% grant-funded project. So if you've got a project between 25 and 50,000 pounds, you can actually apply for a grant which will give you 100% of the cost, which in my experience is very, very unusual. Normally a business will be required to put some of their own money into a project. So that's quite a good fund to go for, but it's only 20 million, and I imagine that throughout UK business, that 20 million is not going to go very far, to be honest. So I would have thought it'd be quite oversubscribed. There's obviously lots of things out there at the moment that have been in the news, with sort of support for employees, support for rates and businesses that are on small business rate relief, and then sector specific as well. But I'm constantly coming across aid out there for businesses in musicians, businesses in film and TV. I'm just trying to think what else. There's a whole host. I keep a newsletter going every week, and we're at 6 pages at the moment, and I expect that to go to probably 7 or 8 on Monday when I update it. So it's very, very difficult at the moment to keep your eye on exactly what's going on, and be able to advise people off the top of your head, because quite often I have to go around and do a bit of research and find out exactly what's available for them. In terms of normality, if we were in normal circumstances, from my perspective, the service we offer is to be able to identify grants for any business in any sector throughout the UK. So it really doesn't matter where you are, we can still identify grants for you. If those grants, if you're not confident enough to apply yourself and require it, we can do that as well. So So we can supply a service that takes you right from finding the grant right to receiving it, which really, it just takes all the hassle and the time away from business owners. So it just enables you guys to get on with doing what you do best, which, you know, obviously is running your business, and we can do all the work in the background for you. So that's probably a little bit about myself, what we do, and grants in general. But I just wondered if there's any sort of specific questions really out there as to what's going on. See if I can be of assistance.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, team. That's been very insightful. It's good to know that there are all these help available to organizations out there. And we have lots of questions coming in. I'm going to open the floor at some point, but I could ask a few just to get us off the ground. So we have a question about, first and foremost, whether there are grants out there for charities. I think that's a pretty straightforward one for you. Are there grants out there for charities?
Absolutely. There's lots of grants out there for charities. In normal circumstances, you'd be talking about grants for operating costs, for projects, that sort of thing. At the moment, I think the Chancellor announced, I think it was his 750 million fund.
I think it's 750, yes.
Yeah, for charities out there. I read something this morning. I'm not too sure about the actual specifics, Kaneo, but yes, the answer is yes. I would actually guess that there's possibly, in normal circumstances, there's more funding available, or wider variety of funding available for charities than there is for business, to be honest with you.
Okay. And charities include CICs, I presume?
Yeah, non-for-profit, basically.
Okay, any non-for-profit. Good.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So another very easy one. People are asking whether they can have your email address for the newsletter you produce.
Absolutely, yeah. Do you want to send it on? Because you'll have it, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it, but you can. Yes, I'll just to be. I can send it, or we can share it on the chat room.
Yeah,
I'll post it on the chat room while you're handling some of the questions. So that's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then another one before I ask the major question is, what about startups? Are there funding for startups available?
I suggest area specific for startups. I'm not sure where everybody is, but certainly Birmingham, I haven't come across anything in Birmingham for a while, although there was something in the sort of the marshes area, which is a bit further north. So it's patchy, to be honest with you. As I say earlier, it's you know, these things are quite area or region specific, and also industry sector specific as well. But there's a chance there could be. It just depends where people are.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, team. So I guess the main question, so we know that there's an innovation. So you mentioned the innovation grant that was recently announced. I think it was announced. So it started on the 3rd of April, was it?
Yes, and the closing date is next Friday.
Okay.
So that's the 17th, won't it?
Yes, please. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that grant?
Well, absolutely. So basically, we're all well aware now of the situation that we're in now, and that this situation has obviously had an effect on business and society. So this fund has been set up to help businesses who have innovative ideas, bring them to the marketplace. So it's quite unusual. It's quite a quick turnaround grant. It has to be started very quickly. I think in June the project has to be started. So if any application is successful, it's got to be finished. It's got to be started in June and finished within 6 months. It's 100% funded. But what it is the purpose of the grant really is any innovation that can help business or society as we are now in the current situation, and still be effective as we move out. So it will actually theoretically put the UK at the forefront of international business, pushing us forward as a stronger unit. So you can argue those points. There is, as I say, is 100% funding out there between £25,000 and £50,000 on a project.
Sorry, I was busy speaking to myself. Yeah, so yeah, happens all the time. So there's funding of between 25 and 50,000 available to small businesses for innovation. Is that correct? Okay. And so what's the criteria for that? Is 100% funded?
Yes,
according
it's
to
100% funded.
What's the criteria for accessing the funds? What kind of projects are we thinking about, or will be eligible? What's the scope?
You have to be a limited company, an SME, a limited company. Can't be a sole trader. It has to be something that doesn't exist at the moment. So it can. I think the obvious ones are probably technology based that will enable you to work more effectively from home, or interact more effectively. I'm doing one at the moment that will help elderly and disabled people be less reliant on carers. So someone's come up with a project they want, but that's a physical product that doesn't exist at the moment, that they want to manufacture and get out into the marketplace. So most of the things I'm looking at and talking to people about are technology based, but it could be a physical item that needs to be made as well, that I say doesn't exist, or it could just be a twist on something that does exist, but it actually adds great value, and just adds value to business or society, really.
Okay. So I have a question here, and I'm probably going to redirect to the person himself or herself to ask it. But it says here, when you say innovative ideas, that's a bit general. Could it be anything? And I think I'll ask Eugene to let Abdul ask this question himself, so he can shed a bit more light on what he means. Abdul? Hi, Abdul. Can you hear me?
Yeah, 1 second. The question was already answered, actually, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right, thanks, Abdul. Ferdinand, you had a question?
Yes, I'm grateful for the presentation we've received from Tim so far. I am somebody with a background in medical research. I work at Northwick Park Hospital, and I know that much as I work on like tissue regeneration, wound healing, and that sort of thing, the pandemic has actually shifted our mindset. So we're thinking about moving into doing any amount of COVID research that we can do. And we've had a few thoughts about how to reinvent the mask, the face mask, or actually how to look at the parameters that people who suffer from COVID show, so that we know the differences between the people who succumb to it and those who survive it in Europe, in Africa, and elsewhere. But I want to just ask our team, what are the sorts of funding opportunities that we have? Because we are thinking about it now, but God knows he might be able to help us. Can you think of other places we could go for funding? Because we are thinking about, this is a new disease. We have to understand it in China, in Europe, and in Africa. And the ways in which the people who end up dying of COVID or surviving COVID, we don't know that now. So we need to do these studies. Can he suggest to me places we can go for funding?
Yeah. Hi, Ferdinand. Yeah.
Did you hear that? Okay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. This Innovate UK doesn't cover things that are directly related to the virus itself, things like ventilators, that sort of thing, which are covered under other government schemes. Now, in answer to your question, I believe, and I could either send it through Caneo and he could pass it on to you, but I do believe there is a fund that's out there which is directly related to the research behind the virus itself. It's different. It's a different fund, but I'm sure I've read something somewhere that basically there is something out there for companies that actually want to carry out research, as like you're saying, which is directly related to the virus itself. But I'm happy to.
I'll appreciate that. I'll appreciate that.
Yeah. If I send it through Caneo, and then he can pass it on to you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Okay, happy to do that, Tim.
Pleasure.
So back to this innovation competition that you mentioned, right? So in terms of what it can fund, let me test my understanding here. So if someone identifies a challenge that came as a result, so I know it's been done already, but an example will be the fact that now all businesses are having to work from home pretty much if they're not essential services. The fact that we're on Zoom, so if Zoom didn't exist prior to now, then that kind of project could get funded. Or if there are gaps.
Sorry.
Okay, so I was going to say, and if there are gaps that we've noticed in a Zoom technology as an example, maybe something that it should be doing that is not doing well enough, if we wanted to pick on that and look at how to make it better, will that get funded as well?
Yeah, I think that would be a very valid application. Yeah, I think I'd used an example with somebody that basically, if Zoom was one-to-one, and you could come up with the technology to make it one-to-many, then again that would be a very valid application that you could put a strong argument for. So absolutely, because some of these, it's like, I suppose when you look at the entertainment industry and you've got brands and groups using platforms to send out, let's say live concerts and things like that. Now, probably not really meant for that. So if you were to come up with some form of platform so that these guys could actually get out to their fans and entertain and all that sort of thing, do it online, then absolutely. I mean, what they don't want is they don't want anything that's going to be there's going to have then a negative impact on society. So if you come up with an idea that then makes people more reliant on, say, oil or something like that, or increases gambling or something, where it's going to have a negative impact on society, that they don't want that. They want it again to have a positive impact moving forward. So it's not really, although it is for where we are at the moment, but it's actually, you still want it to be useful moving out of this, and when we get back to some form of normality, whatever that's going to look like.
Absolutely, yeah. The new norm, like they say.
Absolutely, that's it.
All right. So again, I had a chance to look at the government website and listen to their webinar as well. And one of the things that they mentioned was the need for value for money and societal or industry needs. What I mean, for someone who doesn't understand, you haven't put the business case together before, how would you explain that? What does that mean, and how does one go about establishing or engaging these factors?
Well, I suppose, like I said before, when someone's going to give a business public money, then there's got to be a result. There's got to be some form of payback. Yeah. So I suppose this one doesn't. Usually, it's something like, say for £10,000, you've got to create a job. I mean, it's nice and simple. Now, this doesn't really specify exactly what what the outcome's going to be. So I suppose really the advice would be to answer what the question is, not what you think you want to put in the box. So read it carefully, read the criteria, answer the question to the answer they want, but make it clear, just make it clear and put a strong argument of what the benefit is going to be. Now, that may, it might not always be a monetary value. I suppose in a lot of cases it probably will be, but if you can prove something and you can put a strong argument, then really that strengthens your case. So it's really whatever you feel the benefit is going to be. It really push that, sell the benefit in your application.
Okay, thanks a lot, Tim. Again, I think let me open it up to the general house to see if there are any questions. Does anybody have any questions? Please just type in the chat box so that we can unmute you, just so that we can have some order. Marcel Batson, I hope I'm getting the name, Batson Warner. Marcel, do you want to ask your question? So she's asking, does it need to be implemented within 6 months?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Marcel. Yeah, it has to be for this particular fund. The project has to be started in June, and you've got 6 months to complete it. And to apply for it, you would need to, if you search Innovate UK, look, it will be on a government website. You set an account up. It's not hard to set the account up, and then you can start the application process through that account. So it's very straightforward. But it's just reading the.
Go on, Marcel.
I've actually gone on that website today and looked to open the account, and I'm waiting for them to come back to me to verify my email address. But they do actually say, don't contact us because it could take up to 24 hours before they actually send out the email confirmation. So I'm waiting for receipt of that email so that I can actually activate the account.
Okay, yeah, you will get an email that comes back to say activate. When did you send that then? When did you set that up?
Today, earlier today, because I was reading through, what is the process, and it starts with opening an account. So yes. I started that, and most of these things that says check your inbox for an email, it's actually almost there by the time you go and go from that page back to your email. But on this occasion, it actually does say up to 24 hours before you actually receive that email.
That's why I'm surprised, because I set two up this morning, and to be honest with you, within virtually instantly, the email for verification had gone through, actually before I'd even advised the client that they were going to get an email.
Which I was surprised, but it actually does say that. So I don't know if all of a sudden there's been a huge surge. And I mean, it's normally automated. I would have thought that the system sends that out email. I wouldn't have thought there was any human input. No. But anyway, I'm waiting. I'm waiting to receive the email.
It does say 24 hour. I do know what you mean. It does say that, yeah. But like you say, I was surprised, because I thought you'd get that quite quickly.
Marcel, could I suggest? Have you had a look at your spam to see whether perhaps the email went there?
I was thinking that too.
Yeah, I did, because that was, that's like the next go-to. So we'll see. I'm not overly impatient. I can be working in the background on my
information,
on my proposal.
Yeah.
So, and it does say, if you don't get it, then contact us. But obviously we're in the Easter period, so there's no one there to respond probably until Tuesday. But that was my experience. But you can't actually see the criteria of the application process, can you, until you actually open that account? I was hoping there might have been a form that I could have actually seen what the various steps were, so that you can actually structure your thinking to fit the criteria. But I've
Yeah,
got to wait.
yeah, you don't see the actual form itself, I don't believe, but you before you get to that, there are some tabs, and it will give you some ideas on what to, even if it's just a starting point, Marcel. It gives you an idea about what about four questions are that they're going to ask.
I can see that already, can I, before the account's activated, or only once?
No, before it's activated, you'll be able to see that.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'll go back and have a look then.
Yeah, there's about 4 or 5 from memory. There's about 4 or 5 tabs. One will say the scope. I forgot what they say now. But just have a look through, and I'm sure in there somewhere it will just give you an outline, a rough outline of what some of the questions they'll be asking.
Tim, just to help, I've shared the link about the page. Let me share it on the screen if you are interested.
Okay.
Okay.
If anybody,
okay, thank you.
I can share the screen. So, I can just show you the. Sorry. So this is the page. Tim
That's it. That's the one. Yeah. So if you just go back down a bit, Eugene. Yeah. If you go to, I forget which one it is now. You need to go across a couple of tabs. I don't know. Isn't maybe the scope? Maybe.
So there's a bit of, in terms of they take through the theme, what the project will fund and things like that.
So you see sort of vaccines and ventilators are excluded from this.
So this is the page in terms of, and then there's a summary.
Yeah, I've been on that, but what about the how to apply? What's under that tab?
How to apply. It just gives you a bit of information.
Yeah.
That's it. Sorry, that's what's
Oh, application questions.
Yeah, if you look down here, Marcel, and if Eugene goes down a bit further, you just get some. There's about 4 questions, and it gives you a starting point anyway.
Right. Okay, that's good. I can work with that.
So these are the questions they are asking in terms of what the idea is all about, and of course the meanings, criteria, and also the concept. So this one will help you to kind of shape what the proposal is, and also
yeah, that's what I was kind of looking for ahead of. So okay, thanks for that.
So you go 4 questions, which will qualify for 25 marks each. So these are the ones that they'll be assessing.
They're the big ones.
So, and then the business planning resources in terms of your team skills and how your capability to deliver the project, and of course your cost plan in terms of all your overhead and things like that. So it kind of break down some of the key things they are looking for.
I think it gives you enough to start anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, was that okay, Marcel?
I think,
yeah, no, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Marcel. Thanks, team. And what? So I think while we're on the set of questions, right? I think the question around that will be, so we know there are 25 marks for each of the 4 questions. So there are 6 questions in all, 2 of which are not scored, the first 2, and then you have the 4 that are 25 marks each. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how does one get from your own experience, how does one get maximum scores on each of those questions? What are the kind of things that one could put in that will increase their scores?
Yeah, that'd be great to know the definitive answer to that one. I think really it's reading the question, answering the question, but also, as I said before, it's really explaining the benefits, because don't forget I think when we come up with these ideas as business owners, we know what they are, and we don't possibly always explain it as well as it could be explained. And I think it's It's really understanding and reading the criteria of what they want to know from you and answering that, not what you think the question is. So addressing all those points, but also in it, really, really making it very clear what the benefits are going to be. So for that, 30, 40, 50,000, whatever it's going to be, what are they going to get back for that? So putting that there in good plain English, really.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. So essentially, read the questions carefully and answer.
Absolutely, but yeah, do read them really careful, and obviously take some time, do it on a Word document or something first. Play around with it and have a bit of paper, tick off. Write a list of the criteria for the question on a piece of paper, and when you're writing it, once you've answered that bit, just tick it off and just make sure then it flows nice and neatly. I do think on this one, because it's so quick, probably not going to have to be quite as detailed. And 400 words is not a lot of words, really. So you're not going to have to go in massive, great detail. So but you have got to sell your idea.
So this feels a lot like an elevator pitch almost of your idea, covering the problem, solutions, team, and finance, or finance model. All right. Yeah.
I think that's a fair comment, but yeah, there are details. I think it's just like it's a watered down Innovate UK proposal, really.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, Tim. Good tips all around. There's a question here from Ebuka, and he's asking, does the company need to be trading first or have some revenue before you qualify to apply?
Well, yeah, you're going to have to set up a limited company, so you need sort of a legal entity first. It's not just for an idea. So yes, you're going to have a company. Actually, I'm not sure if it's like a dormant company that hasn't traded. I am actually not sure on that, but it would probably tell you in the criteria.
So so I know it needs to be a limited company, but I haven't seen anywhere, just off the top of my head, based on what I've read, there's nothing there that states it needs to be generating revenue at the moment.
I haven't seen that either, Kaneo.
Thanks. Ebuka, did you have any other questions around that, or has that answered your question?
Yeah, that's pretty much answered my question.
Okay, fine. Thanks. Thanks. And then, Tim, we have another question here from Abdul again, and he says, do you have to be sponsored by university, or is it purely an idea?
No, you don't have to be sponsored by a university. It is an idea with some commercial sort of value to it, really.
Okay, good stuff.
I mean, if you wanted to link with universities, there's all sorts of things like knowledge partnerships and that you can apply for. There's quite a lot out there that linking industry with universities, but that's kind of like another area, really.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Eugene, please.
Yes. Tim, you mentioned that one business can apply for the funding for 2 projects. Does it harm if you submit 2 projects in terms of the decision making?
No, but they will only
fund one project
from one project on that particular under that particular fund. Yes.
But does it harm if you fund 2 that like they look at it and say, oh, probably just trying your chances, or they do it independently?
Well, they do say you can apply twice, so I'd suggest if they say you can do it, I don't see why that would be a negative, Eugene. What you can't do is rehash a failed application. So if you've applied to Innovate UK and you've been refused, you can't kind of like take that application and put it in for this.
Okay.
Okay. There's Ronke wants to ask a question. Ronke Oladele. Ronke?
Yeah, hello. I just wanted to ask, if you mentioned a limited company does not have to be generating income, but can that go for a CIC as well?
Tim, did you get that? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. So I was trying to think of the answer. Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. Again, I hadn't really sort of come across that in the past, but yeah, I don't see why not. You know, but are you talking for this particular fund, or in general?
Both.
So is it sort of you're starting it up? You're starting the CIC up?
Yeah, so it's registered and everything, and it has some like good following and good traction, but it hasn't actually started in terms of producing the product.
Yeah, I don't see why not. I think it has to be. I would suggest it would have to be in proportion, though. I mean, to go from zero and apply for kind of £250,000 worth of funding might raise a few eyebrows. So I think you've probably got to do it in relevant steps, to be honest with you. But at the end of the day, you've got to start somewhere, haven't you? Funding a CIC. So yeah, I would suggest it's worth a look.
Thank you.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions?
Can I have mine as a comment?
Yeah, Dennis.
Yes, Tim. I think I listened to the podcast as well, and the June cutoff date is that your event should start by June. It doesn't mean that it should. Could you start, for instance, before June and therefore claim for everything up until June? Could you start in the, after June, but within the 6 months post June? So could you start in July or August? But the other thing I noticed as well, maybe this is just a normal comment, they talk about innovation, and I think the misconception might be for some of the eligible people or businesses, they might be looking at innovation from a technological perspective. And my thoughts are that innovation does not necessarily involve serious technology. It might be, you might be innovative within, just in the way that you've been working in your processes. It's all about new ways of doing things. And it doesn't have, you don't have to have a Nobel Peace Prize winning piece of technology or software or designing something that is out of the ordinary. It's just, innovation is always about new ways of doing things, and it includes anything from smart technology to apps to processes, just a simple process, as long as you can demonstrate that you're using these new ways to deliver something much bigger with a bigger audience. That's my comments.
Yeah, no, I think that's very valid, Dennis. Very valid.
Yes, thanks a lot for that, Dennis.
Off.
Sorry, did I say that again?
Tim's thoughts on the 6 months, the June cutoff date.
Yeah, I think I was just gonna say that Tim. I think there was a question in there about starting point. So the starting date, we know that the application ends on the 17th, and what they've said is within a month. So the same about 17th of May, you will receive the funding if you're successful. So the question really is, if I receive the funding on the 17th of May, can I start the project then, or do I have to wait till June 1st to start the project?
No, I think they're saying June is the latest to start it. Really, then you've got to be in a position to start it by. So absolutely, I would suggest that as soon as you get notification and everything, it's you'd be good to start. I mean, general rule of thumb with a grants application is the fact that you can't do anything before you've had the application approved. Once it's approved, you can go. It's just unusual in this instance that actually you get the money before the project actually starts. Normally you do the project and then you claim the money back.
Absolutely. I think that's the fantastic thing about this one, isn't it? Guys, please, can I ask everyone to let's put ourselves on mute unless we have the floor. That way we can have a better experience. Thank you. Yeah. So, but team. So, in terms of, and thanks very much for these innovation grants. I'm just going to ask one more, because we're coming to the end of the webinar itself. Does anybody have any questions relating specifically to this particular competition or grant that they still want to ask?
I was just, Mr. Buka here. I was just wondering, is there an application deadline?
Because I think that's an easy one. Tim, do you want to answer that? So is there a deadline for this for the innovation grant, for this particular innovation grant? I believe it's next week Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, so 12 noon. It's noon next Friday, Canal.
That's okay. So 12 noon, 17th of April.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
However, can I?
Yes, Dennis.
Yeah. When I listened to the audio, they were at great pains to encourage people not to wait for the deadline.
Absolutely.
The impression I got is that the money might be given on a fast come, fast serve basis, and that people should not overthink it. They should just get the ideas in there, and they will be looked at as soon as possible. So I would encourage everyone listening not to wait. Just put it in.
Absolutely. I think I'll second that, Dennis. I think if you already have an idea, try to use the bank holiday weekend to go through that website, put your thoughts together. It doesn't have to be very flashy. It doesn't have to be, dot all the T's by all means and dot all the I's and cross all your T's, but it doesn't have to be that detailed. But try to get it out. My suggestion would be try to get it out as early as Tuesday next week, because like Dennis said, it's probably going to be on a first come, first serve basis.
Can I ask a small question?
Yes, Ferdinand, go on.
It's just to ask Tim, are we precluded from having a collaboration with our folks at home? Because you may have some young graduates who might actually have a good idea to contribute to this kind of adventure.
Ferdinand, do you mind, before I'm going to hand it over to Tim, but before then, when you say folks at home, can you?
Yeah, yes, in Uganda and elsewhere, out of UK.
Okay, I'll let Tim answer that. Tim, so I think the question is, can you collaborate with people that are outside of the UK on the project?
Well, usually yes. You have partners that you will collaborate with. Ferdinand, if it's I don't see why the fund that we were talking about, I was going to pass across to you via Caneo. I don't see why that would be any different. But in general terms, yeah. I mean, I'm working with a company at the moment, and we're collaborating with a manufacturing company in China to make some of the tooling and stuff. So, and that is acceptable. So I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Thank you.
Tim, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yes, you mentioned on your introduction that you provide grant application services.
Yes.
What's your fee, or what's your take? How does it work? Like if someone is interested to get support from you, like guidance, or do you take a commission, or what's the percentage, or how does it work?
Yeah, what generally happens is that if they want me to align their sort of next sort of 12 months, 24 months worth of plans with what grant funding is available, which generally takes me probably 5 or 6 hours to do. So, find out what all their plans are, do searches of funds that are open and closed, and then see what best we can align to make the maximum. Then I charge for that, but provide them then with all the information that then they can go away, and if they want, it's their information. I charge £295 plus VAT for that. They go away with all the information. It's entirely up to them then. If they want to apply on their own, they've paid me to do a job, and all I've done is search around and I've put a report together for them. So that's one stage, and then yes, if they want me to do the application for them, I do charge on a no win, no fee percentage of basis, and generally, rule of thumb, it's a % of the grant funding.
What's the percent?
10.
10%.
Yeah, but it's no win, no fee. If we don't get it, then I, don't charge.
So does that include going through the application, making sure you have all, you've captured all the key aspects they are looking for in terms of to make sure that it's meeting all the criteria?
That's everything, Eugene. Yeah, everything.
Okay.
So well, don't get me wrong. There will be some conversations and some emails go backwards and forwards. Of course there will be, but in general terms, I take all the, as much of the work away as I possibly can, and write it all up and make sure everything's done, sorted, make sure we've got all the information. But generally, what I find is the most difficult is getting things like financial information and cash flows. I find they're the hardest things to get off of business owners, to be honest with you.
So I assume that you've been doing it anyway for so many years. So you've maybe have some successful application you've submitted it through. What were the key, the hardest area you talking about is getting your cash flow and the budget?
Yeah, I find that businesses will obviously have their end of year accounts, but when you need then to, it might be we're doing an application now we're in April. So we might be doing an application now in April. And their year end might have been, say it's the end of December last year. And we need to bridge the 4-month gap or the 3-month gap. And then I do find getting those management accounts difficult with a lot of businesses, and also then you possibly need 12 months worth of, depending on what grant you're applying for, you might need 12 months worth of profit and loss and cash flow forecasts going forward, and I do find it difficult to get, not on every occasion, but on quite a few occasions, difficult to get that sort of information out of businesses.
So for this one, because it looks like it's just a quick one, it doesn't look like they're asking for all those things. All they are just looking is I registered the entity in the UK with, of course, all the facilities to demonstrate that they are viable and all those. They are not going to ask all those historical.
No, you're right. In this instance, no, it's kind of like a light version, as it were. I think if you can prove that you have done some form of comparisons and you can put something in there that we've looked around, etc. But yeah, in a lot of cases you probably got to supply 3 quotes and then justify why you chose the supplier that you did. In this instance, you don't have to do that.
Okay, thank you. Kana, it's up to you. Is it good? So in the interest of the audience, and I've shared the document that you shared with Kana yesterday in terms of some of the available grants in the UK. So if anybody is interested, if the team is happy, we can share with the rest of the people. There's the document, the 3 pages that you shared of some of the summary of open grant and the funding within various sectors.
Yeah, I've got 2 newsletters, one for non-for-profits and one for for-profit businesses. They overlap a little bit, but in general, I've got 2 separate ones, Eugene.
So we can share with the audience, those who are interested, or if they, in the case they need more, which you go your contact, then we can always engage with you if they need further support.
Absolutely. I'm very happy. I can send them through to Kaneo if you like, or people can email me directly with pleasure. I will update them both over the weekend. So possibly best, they're a week out of date now, which is at the moment, which is quite a long time. So I'll probably best just updating them slightly.
Yes, that would be helpful because, to be honest, things has been changing every minute. So I'm sure some of them need a bit of double checking to make sure either they still exist or because we are just in a very fast-moving environment. Things like are just disappearing, coming on. So if you are able to share an updated version, that would be helpful. And then we can share with the rest of our members.
Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah, and I think it's probably fair to say a lot of these things are going to be quite well subscribed. So, you know, it's almost going to be a version on a little bit of a lottery in some cases.
Okay. I think we ran out of time. Can I ask, do you have any more question, or how do you want to wrap up the discussion?
No, I think sorry, I lost my connection there for a bit. Apologies to everyone. I was gonna say that we have lots of questions coming in, but we, like Eugene, like you rightly said, we are definitely out of time. So I've shared Tim's details, and Tim has confirmed. Tim, you're happy for people to get in touch with you directly if they have.
Please, if we haven't covered all the questions, and anybody would like to email me direct, absolutely, I'll reply. And then on the bottom of my email will always be my own number. So so we can always carry on then next week with a telephone conversation.
Fantastic. So I think
yeah, please feel free to do so.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Tim. So I think all I can say on behalf of everyone, on behalf of the African Business Chamber and everyone on this call, I'd like to say a big thank you to you, Tim, for sharing your time with us and your expertise and all the information you've thrown light on. And look forward to catching up with you and everyone else, and wishing you a happy bank holiday weekend.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
Before we go, I just wanted to highlight that we have more upcoming webcasts for those on the audience who are interested. Our series is mainly every Tuesday, so anybody who is interested, please sign up for our future webcast. We will have some exciting programs in terms of how you can restructure and especially in the current crisis for survival, and also prepare for recovery as we move to the next phase of the economy. So please sign up, and we look forward to seeing you again joining us.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Bye-bye.